Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Hoops and Huddles. Today I'm going to talk about the first round matchup between the Golden State Warriors and the Sacramento Kings. It's crazy this year. I don't think I've ever been so compelled by so many first round matchups. We really are treated to some of the best competition, especially in the West. A lot of the Eastern Conference is very top heavy in my opinion. So while I think the Knicks Cavs series will be interesting, I think a lot of the other teams are going to have a cakewalk to the second round. But over in the West, it's like almost every single matchup is super compelling. And here's another one. I mean, I genuinely could not pick a side here as much as I want to. My heart is telling me to pick the Golden State Warriors for obvious reasons. I mean, we know what they've done. They are the defending champions, which is something I feel like a lot of people have just forgotten at this point. They're the defending champs. We know what they can do. We know what Steph Curry can do, Draymond and Clay, and that whole core. We've seen it time and time again, either with or without Durant. They're a phenomenal team. And even though they've had immense struggles this year, namely on the road, and without Andrew Wiggins for most of the season, and then they didn't have Gary Payton, and they had to bring him back. I mean, it's like I can't. No matter how bad I've seen them this year, I cannot get their run as a dynasty out of my head, no matter what. I don't care, that they've missed the play in that one year, and I don't care that they look terrible on the road, and so on and so forth. It's like this team cannot be underrated at all. And then it's like I look at the Sacramento Kings on the other hand, and like this is a team that's done everything right this year. They brought in Mike Brown, who's done an absolutely phenomenal job. De'Aaron Fox is a revelation to the league right now. I mean, he's always been good, but he's been buried away in these Sacramento games, and it's like, myself included, like he's not a player that I was keeping up with night in and night out. But this year, he's really just been instrumental in their success. I think a lot of that ties back to Mike Brown, and I think a lot of that actually ties back to the fact that Mike Brown was the assistant coach on the Golden State Warriors for 6 years, which is one of, I think, the most crucial elements of this series. It's like he was there for the second year of Steph Curry's MVPs, and he was there for the Durant years. And it's like if there's one coach that knows the Golden State Warriors in and out, it is Mike Brown. That guy has been there through it all. And so that's one of the things that makes this matchup so compelling. It's like, because he's kind of introduced this Golden State system with all the ball movement to the Sacramento Kings. And it's like they're so well equipped mentally, I think, to prepare themselves for the Warriors. Now, whether they can execute is going to be a different question. But Mike Brown knows the philosophy of that team. He knows the counters. He knows Clay and Draymond and Steph. He knows what makes them uncomfortable. Now, some of that, you can say maybe that's a bit overrated. I mean, LeBron's gone against former coaches that he's had in the past, for example. And it's like, technically, yeah, they know his weaknesses, but like he can overcome it. And so that's kind of like something with Steph Curry. I'm sure they know his weaknesses, but it's like Steph is such a transcendent player that like, even if you're hitting him with the stuff that he hates the most, he's still going to be able to elevate his game. So regardless, I do think that that's something that is an interesting piece to this puzzle. And I think that that's one of the reasons that the Sacramento Kings, despite being a young team and despite being an inexperienced team, they have this championship pedigree from their coach that, we don't know if it's going to translate to the players yet. And that's another thing. It's like with these young teams that don't have playoff experience, it's very hard to know what the product is going to be. Honestly, it's like you just don't know. Not to keep bringing up the Lakers, but like when we look at that Minnesota Timberwolves Lakers play-in game that, is like a playoff game, all of a sudden, look at the players that elevated. LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Dennis Schroeder, who all have playoff experience. Austin Reeves has been a revelation for the Lakers over the year, and he took a step back in that game. D'Angelo Russell, doesn't have the best reputation for the limited playoff experience he has, and he took a step back. It's like, the younger players on that team, or the less experienced players, you could see that they were adjusting. And so I'm going to be very curious to see how the Sacramento Kings players adjust. I mean, De'Aaron Fox has not been in the playoffs, despite him being like an all-star caliber player for the entirety of his young career. The only player I think I don't have much worry in on that team, Sabonis perhaps, but also like Malik Monk. Malik Monk's never been in the playoffs either, but when I saw him last year playing on the Lakers, it's like he just could hit any shot at any moment, and I feel like he will be able to translate over. I mean, they do have Harrison Barnes as well. That's another piece I can't forget. Harrison Barnes was obviously there in the 2015 and 2016 Warriors playoff runs. So that's, he's an established player. He hasn't done much since. I mean, like he was in Dallas. Obviously, he's now with the Kings. I think he was somewhere else too. I can't remember off the top of my head. But, the Kings do have something to work with. So I just, like, my head is telling me the Kings just because they've been so good this year offensively. Obviously, defensively, they've had their issues. But they've been so good offensively, and they have a good coach. It's like, and the Golden State Warriors are bad on the road. It's like, if I just write everything down on a piece of paper, the Kings should win this series. But I cannot. It's like I'm someone with PTSD from all these championship rings that the Warriors have. It's like, I cannot get the idea of them blowing the doors off of anybody out of my head. I mean, really, it's like no matter how bad they play, it's like I just can't count them out. It's almost like, it kind of reminds me of like the Kansas City Chiefs, right, with Patrick Mahomes. It doesn't matter how they stink up a half or they stinks up a quarter. It's like if Patrick Mahomes is still on the field, the Chiefs can win this game. And as long as Klay Thompson and Draymond and Steph Curry are on the court, they can go on a run. I don't care how many points they're down by. So that's just what makes this series so hard to predict. I know it sounds like I'm leaning Warriors, but man, like I just cannot count out the success that I've seen from the Kings so far this year. And that brings me to another topic I wanted to hit on, which is like the X factors for each team. I think that this stuff has kind of been documented mainly on the Warriors side. I mean, Andrew Wiggins has been that key piece that they've been missing for a lot of the year. The problem with him is like he was phenomenal last year. Everyone, I don't like doing this because it was just one run, but like he did look like the second best player next to Steph last year. Obviously Klay Thompson should assume that role, and I'm a bit hesitant to just outright say Andrew Wiggins is their second best player now. But that was kind of the role he had on the team last year when they won the championship. So it's like not having him there is obviously a massive hole. But the question is like, it's not like he was injured and, he's still keeping in shape and blah, blah, blah. He's been away from the team with the family matter. I think it's something with his dad. I don't know the details, but he's been away for the team for so long. It's like, you need to get back into basketball playing shape. And I know they're trying really hard to like expedite that process off the court in all the training that they're doing. But I mean, to go from not playing basketball for months to all of a sudden entering the playoffs, I mean, that's one hell of a ramp up. And so I don't know if Andrew Wiggins can just turn it on like that. And then obviously there's chemistry issues. I mean, they can kind of fall back on what they did last year, but for someone who hasn't been in that lineup for a while, there is going to be a bit of an adjustment period. And then other players are going to have to adjust. Like Jordan Poole's going to now have to take a step back again. And like Kuminga's going to have to take a step back. So that is one of the X factors for me, is like if Andrew Wiggins can return to a large percentage of what he was before he left and before, how he was last year. I mean, I've seen stats. They were losing home games before Andrew Wiggins left. So you can't just put it all on Andrew Wiggins. Sorry, I meant to say they've been losing away games. I apologize. Since before Andrew Wiggins left. So it's not all up to him, but he is a crucial piece and he is another shooting threat. And it's like, you're guarding Klay as tight as you can guard him. You're guarding Steph Curry as tight as you can guard him. It's like Andrew Wiggins is going to spring free. Someone's going to spring free, and that's the crucial piece that he is to them. And now I look at another X factor for the Kings, and I've touched on it already, which is Malik Monk. And it's like, man, this guy is one of the most underrated players in the league. This guy can drop 30 on you on incredibly high efficient shooting, and it's like it's just going to blow your mind how he does it. It's just his crazy threes that he's hitting. He's hyper aggressive. He's not the best defender, most of the people on the Sacramento Kings, but just his offensive toolkit for such a young player is so impressive that I think there's a world where, he's like the third best player in this series behind De'Aaron Fox and behind Steph Curry. So if that's the case, if he ends up becoming that third best player in this series, I think the Kings walk away with it. So that's something that Kings fans I know are hoping for. And I really, out of all the things that I question about this matchup, I know Malik Monk is going to perform. I know he will. Now, is he going to be better than a Klay Thompson? Is he going to be able to elevate his game to the point where the Kings are able to maybe win 2 or 3 games early in the series? I don't know, but I would be shocked if Malik Monk wasn't already a factor in game 1, like right out the gate. And the final thing I wanted to touch on for this matchup that I think is another, I don't want to use the term X factor because I was just talking about it, but just another key matchup to look forward to is Kevon Looney against Sabonis. I think that this series could kind of be won or lost in the trenches. I think that Kevon Looney is one of the most underrated players on this Warriors team. I mean, this guy's role has changed over and over again, year in and year out. He's like wanted, not wanted. They draft Wiseman because they feel like, okay, they have to get someone better than Looney, but Wiseman's gone now and Looney's still producing. And it's like his role now is just going to be Mr. Offensive Rebound. Like, he is there for his size and what he's able to do by giving the Warriors more possessions. I mean, you're already giving one of the most efficient shooting teams. The Warriors are already one of the most efficient shooting teams, and now you're giving them more possessions. It's like just mathematically what Looney brings to the table cannot be understated. And so Sabonis, his whole job, apart from producing, one of being supposed to be the second offensive piece on the Kings, it's like he needs to be able to guard Looney and box him out and secure his rebounds. It's like he needs to kind of play almost that traditional center role of rebound first, score later, because if they start giving possessions away to the Warriors, then this series is going to be over fast. So he needs to make sure that, and Mike Brown needs to coach him in a way where that becomes the priority, is limiting the Warriors' possessions and securing rebounds, especially when it's going to be him on Kevon Looney, right? I'm assuming it's going to be him on Draymond for a lot of the game. I don't know. Who knows what the Warriors lineup's going to be? Who knows if Andrew Wiggins is starting? Like, there's just so many things up in the air. But the focus for the Kings needs to be securing rebounds, lessening the number of possessions that the Warriors have, and then maybe they can use that to generate their own offense and go on some runs for themselves. Overall, those are the things that I'm looking forward to seeing in this series. I would not be surprised if the Kings win in 6. I would not be surprised if the Warriors win in 5. There are so many ways that this thing can go. Steph Curry, is going to just go off in a few of these games, and the Kings defense is not really equipped to handle a Steph Curry going off. So if that's the case, I mean, there's the scenario where the Warriors win in 5. But anyways, yeah, so that's my breakdown of the first round series. We'll see. We'll learn a lot from, I think by game 2, we'll kind of have this series sussed out. There might be an adjustment period for the Kings in game 1, but we'll see how they adjust for game 2. And then that's probably when I'll do another episode on this matchup, and we'll see where we're at. If the Warriors go up 2-0 in 2 away games for them in Sacramento, then it's almost like there's no point. I think we'll already know what happens. I'll still do a reaction to it. But that's where we're at anyways. Hope you guys enjoyed my breakdown, and I'll be back again tomorrow with another video. Have a great day.